4.3 area of non-rectangular prisms. I made an error when I was writing. I apologize. This is the last page of my notebook, so we're rolling with it. We're going to be utilizing that formulas page at the beginning of this unit, and I'm not going to lie to you, this is going to be some tricky stuff, especially since you have a math teacher who cannot draw to save her life. So I'll do my best, and I'm going to explain my thinking. This might be a video that you have to watch a couple of times before it sinks in. This is one of the trickiest things that we do all year. So just be aware of that. If your head is spinning a little bit by the time we're done, I know, this is rough stuff, but we can do it, and we're going to practice together. So our objectives for today, you're going to find the surface area of prisms, and you're going to solve real-world problems involving surface area of prisms. So first thing we need to do is name this prism. So looking at its bases, so its base is down here and up here. They're both triangles. So I'm going to name this one triangular prism. So your first step, I'll add some steps off to the side, and I'll blow my notes up here in a little bit so you can see them. So my first step is ID the shape. My second step is going to be to decompose. So we're going to break it down. So a triangular prism has two triangle faces and three rectangle faces. Sometimes the rectangles are all the same, sometimes they are not. Alright, so I moved our shape up here, and so you can see my notes. So we're identifying our shape. Our shape is a triangular prism. We're going to decompose it. It's two triangles and three rectangles. So if I look at this bottom triangle, so down here, my triangle is going to be 6 by 8. So, and there are two of them. So 6 times 8 divided by 2 plus 6 times 8 divided by 2, because we've got this bottom triangle base and this top triangle base. Now we need to calculate or figure out the dimensions of each rectangle and solve. So each rectangle is going to have a height of 9 because the triangles are the same distance apart. So we're going to have a rectangle, a rectangle, a rectangle. They all have a height of 9. So this one will be 9 by, 9 by, and 9 by. So they're all three going to have that shared height of 9. This one up here is 9 by 8. This one over here on this face is going to be 6 by 9, or 9 by 6. And then this back one, it tells us the length of it is 10. So it's going to be 9 times 10. So we'll figure out the dimensions after we decompose. Solve area of shapes. Our last step will be add. Make sure you label your answer. So 6 times 8 would be 48, divided by 2 would give me 24. So I'm going to have 24 and 24. I like to circle my final products or areas so that I can add them easily. 9 times 8 would give me 72. 9 times 6 would give me 54. 9 times 10 would give me 90. Again, if you're showing your work, I don't mind if you use a calculator, but you've got to show your work so that you can explain and see your thinking, your thought process, and I can see your thought process when I'm trying to help. It's going to be important to have your document cameras too, so you can show me your work as we're going through class, because I don't think this is going to be a great time drawing on the screen. Some of you might prefer that, but I think it's going to be faster and more efficient to draw on document cameras. So I'm going to add 24, 24, 72, 54, and 90. I can think to myself, okay, this triangular prism has 2 bases and 3 faces, so I should have 5 total numbers because this side is 1, this side is 2, that long side on the back is 3, and then the top is 4, the bottom is 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different areas, so that is great. I know I've covered each face. So I've got 4, 8, 12, 13, 14. Carry my 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 17 plus 9 would be 26. So my answer for this, the surface area of this triangular prism would be 264 square meters. I'm done. Okay, hopefully you have the steps written in your journal, because when I solve this next problem, I'm going to be scooting my journal up and you won't be able to see them. I'll still talk through them, but I'm not going to write them out again. So this next shape, we need to identify it. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to its base. So this is a pentagonal prism. So if I decomposed this pentagonal prism, I'm going to have 2 pentagons. Since it's a regular polygon, I'm going to have 5 rectangles that will all be the same. So on our triangular prism, we had different rectangles because of the different side lengths, because this triangle was 6, 8, and 10. So that's where our 8, 6, and 10 came from. For this pentagonal prism, yeah, it gets a little hairy because it's a pentagon, but luckily now our rectangles are the same. We don't have a bunch of different calculations to do. So first thing we need to do is we can figure out our rectangles first, because that's going to be a little less tricky. So I like to write 5 rectangles, just so I know I can multiply my answer by 5. So the rectangles, it looks like, is going to be 5. So I'm just going to put that in parentheses so we know that there are 5 of them. So the base is going to be 5 because of this length right here, and our height is going to be 4. So that would mean 5 times 4 gives us 20 for one of them. So all 5 of them would be 100. So you could write out 5 20s, or you could say, okay, it's 100 for 5 of them, because 20 is for one of them, times 5 would give us a total of 100. Next, we need to do our pentagon. So our pentagon's dimensions, it looks like the base is 5, and the height to the center is 3. So if you remember from our formulas page, you could pause and look back right now. The formula for a pentagon would be base times height divided by 2. Because we're breaking it down into triangles, we're going to multiply it times 5 triangles, because we would have 5 of them in this shape. So my base and height would be 5 times 3 divided by 2 times 5. 5 times 3 is 15 divided by 2 times 5. 15 divided by 2 is going to be 7.5 times 5. Let's go ahead and solve 7.5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 2 is 37. Scoot my decimal once. So 37.5 for my pentagon. So then I need to add 100 from my 5 rectangles plus 37.5. Remember, when adding decimals, line up your decimal place. 0 plus 5 is 5, 7 plus 0 is 7, 3 plus 0 is 3, 1 plus 0 is 1, so I get 137.5. My label is feet, so square feet. That is my final answer for this shape. Just joking. We are not done yet. 137.5 is not my final answer. because that is just the area of one pentagon. So 37.5 plus 37.5 would give me 75, plus 100 would be 175 square feet. That would be my final answer. Luckily, I went back through and I was thinking, okay, wait, that seems a little low. Well, it's because I forgot to add one of the pentagons. So our final answer is going to be 175. So this is why it's good to double check that you've covered all of the shapes. Alright, so we've got a word problem. Harry and Jamie pitched this storage tent on a camping trip. How many square feet of canvas did it take to make the tent? We're going to say that the tent had a bottom to it as well, just so you know. So looking at this shape, it's going to be a triangular prism. So knowing that, it's going to have 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. So let's figure out our dimensions of our triangle. So the front triangle is 10, 2 triangles that are 10, because the base is 10, by 12. So 10 times 12 divided by 2. That would be 10 times 12 is 120, divided by 2 is 60. But we can multiply that by 2 since there are 2 of them. So my triangles are 120. Then my rectangles, I've got 10 by 16 for this bottom one. So it's going to be 10 wide, 16 long. That would give me 160. The other 2 are going to be equivalent to each other because these 2 side lengths are the same. So I've got it would be 13 by 16. So 13 by 16 and 13 by 16. When I do that multiplication, 13 times 16, 6 times 3 is 18, carry my 1, 6 plus 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 1 is 1, so 208. So I've got, since I doubled this, I've got my 2 triangles and I've got my 3 rectangles I'm going to add. 120, 160, 208, 208. 8 plus 8 is 16, carry my 1. 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 2, 4, 5, 6. So 696 square feet of canvas to make that tent. Again, if you need to rewind and rewatch, you can, to listen to my explanation. This is going to be our last one, and I'm going to have you pause and go through it as I go through it. So I'll tell you when to pause and ask you different questions. So Kent has a hat that came in his box. How many square inches of cardboard did it take to make this hat box and top? Excuse me. So the first thing we're going to do is identify this shape. So this shape has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. So I want you to pause and write down the name of the figure in your notes. You should have written octagonal prism. Now I want you to pause and write down the shapes that make up this figure. What are the shapes that make up this figure? You should write 2 octagons and 8 rectangles, which is going to seem like a lot of work, but lucky for us, since it's a regular polygon, all 8 rectangles will be the same. So you're going to have 10 total dimensions. So let's start with the rectangles. I want you to write down the dimensions, the dimension of the rectangles. I'll write down the dimensions of the rectangles. You should have written 6 times 12 because they're 6 wide and 12 high. This 1 inch is for the lip of the hat box, but we're not going to calculate that. We're going to ignore it. I don't even want to deal with that right now. So we are not going to acknowledge this 1 inch. So your rectangles are 6 by 12 inches. 6 times 12 gives us 72. We said there are 8 of those. So 72 is one of them. 72 times 8 will tell me all of the rectangles. 8 times 2 is 16. 7 times 8 plus 1. 7 times 8 would be 56, plus 1 would be 57. So 576 is our total area for our lateral faces that are rectangles. Now we're going to think, okay, we've got the octagons. I'm not even going to try to draw that out. So our octagon dimensions, we know that it's going to be base times height divided by 2 times 8. So my base of my octagon is 6. So 6 times, this line is telling us from the base to the center is 7. So 6 times 7 divided by 2 times 8. So go ahead and solve that. Pause and solve that. Once you're done, push play and I'll walk through it. So 6 times 7 would be 42 divided by 2 times 8 is 21 divided by 2 times 8. Not 21 divided by 2, just 21 times 8. 21 times 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16, so that's 168. We're going to have 2 of those. Do not forget the top and the bottom base. So when I add, I'm going to take 168 plus 168 plus 576. 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 6 more would be 22. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 2 is 14, plus 7 would be 21. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4, plus 5 is 9. So it would take 912 square inches of cardboard. Again, remember, we're ignoring the 1 inch lip. I don't want to deal with that right now. So 912 square inches. I know this was a trickier lesson. Do not let it defeat you. We're going to do some practicing. Do not get stressed out by it. Thanks for watching this far. I will see you shortly. Hopefully this doesn't look too weird. It looks really weird recording, and I don't think I've recorded myself with this yet. So maybe you just got a good laugh. And yes, I recorded on Ugly Sweater Day. So you're welcome for the flashback. Sorry that this was a longer video. Thanks for sticking through it. See you soon.